All right, welcome everybody to the Barn Burner Breakdown. I'm your host, Fred Sibelli. I'm very lucky to be joined here by two fellow guests of the show. We got Joe Cav and Rick Caldwell from Combat FC. How you guys doing?
What's going on, brother?
Doing awesome.
I appreciate you guys coming in. I know you got, I'm sure your hands full over the next couple of weeks getting ready. I want to start off the last fight card was sick. I loved it. So many good fights. I saw one fight I'm excited about for this card, not to jump too far ahead, but I think his name was Hill.
Kyle Hill.
Kyle Hill. Oh,
it's good.
Great fight at your last card. And he had it was a cool walkout. He had the kind of like Kill Bill, Bruce Lee kind of thing on. That was really dope. That was a good fight. I'm love to see he's on it.
He's becoming a star very, very quickly. How many times has he fought, Rick? Twice for us?
Yeah, he's fought twice for us. Yeah. So his only pro fights have been with us. He had some amateur fights before that. And his first pro fight, I mean, you couldn't have had a better pro debut. I mean, for those of you that follow us on Instagram, it was like a 3-punch combination to a head kick, and the guy just imploded, just went straight down right against the fence.
Nasty.
And, the guy was out against the fence and Kyle threw his arms out. It was just it was as good of a knockout as you've seen. And that was his pro debut, right? So it's like, all right, it can't get, it's only going to go downhill from there. And then in his second fight, he fought a kid who was 3-0. And I mean, he looked ridiculous. He looked incredible in that fight.
You didn't do him any favors with that kid, right? That guy was really highly decorated at 3-0,
super tough kid,
and everybody was talking about him being the future, and both guys stepped up last minute, right? So Kyle took the fight against the 3-0 guy last second, because his opponent backed out, and we said, hey, this is the only guy we can get you that's willing to step up, that's got the guts to do it, and it was a huge step for him, and it was also a huge step. It was Cam, right? That was his first name.
Cam Wisniewski.
So, yeah, so for a guy like him taking on another undefeated guy and stepping up on that short notice, those are the fights that make it. They move you ahead quite a bit. For either one of them, could have went either way. So it was a very, very competitive fight. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was a great fight, and it seemed to be, maybe it was the social media part of it that had a lot to do with it, and I don't know how many followers he had before that, but that, like you were saying, Rick, that knockout that he had, that made me think of it. I believe you mentioned his name maybe on the show. And then I was watching it, so I made a note of it to make sure I got there for that fight. And I was blown away. I was like, this is great. But both guys, I didn't realize it was a short notice fight.
Yeah, that was, I think I got the confirmation of that while we were doing the virtual press conference last time, and we did that the Monday of fight week. So Kyle had a different opponent who pulled out, and we had been messaging with Cam and his team throughout the day, and I got the official confirmation at 8:30 on Monday night while we were on the press conference. I actually announced it at the very end of the press conference that we got it. So, and I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'd love to see Cam come back, because he's got, really, really bright future. To lose to a guy like Kyle, it's not a step backwards from her. It's a learning experience, and that kid's got a bright future ahead of him. I'm really looking forward.
Still young too. I mean, only his third. That was his fourth fight, so I mean, still very early in his career.
It was that
was
a great fight to get. Yeah,
that's the great thing about MMA as opposed to boxing. Like, guys take real fights very, very early. And I love boxing. I'm not knocking boxing. I'm definitely not knocking boxers. It's just the business model is different, right? So you get a guy that is 10-0 that's never fought anybody. That literally fights tomato cans, and in MMA. You get guys with crazy records that are, guys look like guys like Matt Brown, the immortal Matt Brown. What do you think his record is, Rick? You're pretty good at that stuff.
I mean, I'd have to go in and look now. I mean, but there was a time that, he's got something like 10 or 12 losses, something like that.
And nobody cares.
I think he's 34-12 or something like that. I think he's He's up there for sure. A lot of
Yeah,
fights.
who cares,
Yeah.
right? I don't care
Yeah,
what his
there
record
was a
is.
time that
I
it was
just
Exactly.
like-
fight.
It doesn't matter. He's fighting. I'm watching,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I want to
that's
say
the
at
way
one
this
point
is.
his record was like 14-10 or 15-10. Like it
Although,
wasn't.
Matt Brown just called it quits. He announced his retirement. Was it this week or last week? I think as well.
I just
right?
saw that. Yeah, I just saw that. It's
Oh,
too bad
well-
because he was disappointed that he didn't get on that 300 card, and he's a guy
Yeah.
that probably right. It's tough to juggle that. There's so many guys that deserve a shot, but he was one of the guys that I really would have liked to have seen on there.
He said he wanted Jim Miller, I think, and then that kind of didn't come to fruition. I think it seems like Jim Miller probably, if I was him, I would have taken the Bobby Green fight too, try to get back in the rankings maybe one last time. So
Yeah.
But that would have been a legendary fight. Matt Brown and
I
Jim
love-
Miller would have been awesome.
Love Bobby Green too. Another savage. You know who fought him and beat him was the guy that used to fight for us quite a bit. Was Danny Lazone, Joey Lazone's brother.
Oh yeah, I always see that meme of Bobby Green going up because that's what when it said his fighting style, it just said hood.
Yeah. He's so much fun to watch. He's got such a unique style. What when Danny fought him, Rick? Where was that fight? Affliction, maybe?
Affliction. Yeah, they were called Affliction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that t-shirt company, Fred?
I remember that. I remember I don't think many of the fights from Affliction. I know that they existed. I can't remember if I actually watched them or not, but I remember like the t-shirts and stuff like that.
Donald Trump put money in on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was he put money in on that when they did it. It was the guy that owned the Affliction t-shirt company.
So, did they fight out of Atlantic City?
I think they did a bunch of them. I think they did some in Atlantic City. Remember Andre Arlovsky fought Fedor there, right? Wasn't that Fedor?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. He was kind of winning the fight, right? And then he got knocked out. He tried like a jumping knee or something.
He got him in the corner. Threw a kick or a Superman or something, and I forget what it was. He got knocked out.
Yeah.
That was another one of my favorites, Arlovsky. I always loved that guy. He's such a savage.
Yeah.
Another dude been around forever. Remember? Does he still use the mouth guard with the teeth in it?
Yeah, with the fangs. Yeah.
That was like pretty big. That was like I feel like one of the first things I like remember about a fighter doing that was different,
Yeah.
Well, you have to do that to differentiate yourself, right? You have to do something to differentiate yourself that everybody remembers. And that obviously, stuck with everybody since. That's like Marcus Davis. I was talking to Marcus today, but Marcus always came out in the kilt. He called himself the Irish hand grenade. He came out in the kilt, and everybody knew. You knew what to expect when he came out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, I don't even know what my favorite. I don't want to call it like a gimmick, but it kind of is like a gimmick in a way. It's like it's something that you want the fans to stick with them, so they remember you to see some other crazy stuff.
Yeah.
What was the dude he fought in Bellator? I remember he fought Michael Venom Page one fight, but he used to come out with the caveman, and he would come out.
Oh yeah, Rickles.
He did Stone Cold one time.
Who was the kid that fought? Who was the kid that fought for us, Rick? He came out with the Indian headdress on.
Oh God, you had to ask me that. Sean Baker.
Yeah. The neck breaker.
The neck breaker, Sean Baker.
Yeah. He came out. It was awesome. He came out with this full Indian headdress, and you don't forget that.
People remember all that. I mean, we had a kid.
The neck breaker.
Yeah. We had a kid who fought for us years ago. He actually was one of the guys that fought for us just about every show. And he used to do a Michael Jackson walkout every time.
No.
Oh
yeah. So he'd be dancing like he'd wear a hat, and he'd have he'd have like white gloves on and shit, and he'd be like dancing, coming down to the cage, singing, dancing to beat it. And like people would always, people years later would be, well, whatever happened to that kid that used to do the Michael Jackson walkouts? And like it's funny, the stuff that sticks with people. It's
but that's such a crazy one, because part of me thinks that is a ridiculous amount of pressure to put on yourself to come out to a fight dressed as Michael Jackson, but also you could be putting a crazy amount of pressure on the other dude that doesn't want to
Yeah.
lose to the Michael Jackson dude, you know?
Yeah.
So who knows?
I think the best one ever, right, Fred? We got this kid. What was the kid's name that fought Danny was on?
I mean, which one?
The kid that came. So Fred, he walks to the cage, and I'm doing.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
The guys can pick whatever song they want to come out to, right? That's got nothing to do with us. But the actual playlist for the entire arena, we pick beforehand, right? So we try to keep the tempo up and, cool songs that we like, obviously. And I'm standing there and I'm doing whatever I'm doing, and I hear the theme song for The Price is Right. So remember that. This kid walks out. He's wearing a Burger King hat, a crown. He's walking out to the theme song of The Price is Right. He's got a jock strap on the outside of his shorts. He's wearing boxing gloves instead of MMA gloves. And behind him is a person that's dressed up like a troll. And they walk into the cage to The Price is Right. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And what was that kid's name? Brendan Hoxie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a funny
that
bastard.
was crazy.
You remember
He
Yeah.
gave Danny a card, remember? He gave Danny a card to wish him luck, like a greeting card.
Yeah.
He gave it to him.
Yeah, he handed him a card at the weigh-in. Yeah. Danny was like, the fuck is going on?
Yeah, he didn't know whether to be mad at him or be, he was just
Right.
It was funny. Yeah, we've had a lot of fun over the years. There's been a lot of crazy stuff over the time that we've been doing this. We started in 2006.
That's a great move. That's a great move, then, coming out doing something crazy, because wherever they are right now, somebody's talking about them, right?
Yeah, I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
As long as I live.
Well, and that's the weird thing. Like, we had so many good fights over the years, right? Like, I couldn't remember a lot of them now, though, right? We had so many guys that were just like relatively vanilla, but were excellent fighters.
Yeah.
And I'll run into a guy occasionally and he's like, oh, yeah, I used to come to your shows. I'm buddies with so-and-so. And like, I don't even want to say one of the names that happened recently because, as I'm calling the guy vanilla and saying I can't remember any of his fights, but, I went online and looked and it's like the kid fought for us 3 times. And I'm like, I remember that he fought for us, but I don't remember any of these fights.
Yeah.
And so it's, 'cause, we've watched hundreds of fights since. I mean, if we probably had 150 fights on our shows back then. So it's like, fast forward a decade and the stuff that sticks with you is like the Price is Right theme music and, just some of the other silly shit.
The most fight that I remember, the one that I remember the most was Bobby Diaz and Bobby McMasters. And they both went out. They both went out on exhaustion after the fight. They gave it everything.
Yeah.
They killed each other. And that was that the first event we ever did?
That was the co-main event on our first event. And I remember watching it and it was like that, Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonnar moment on The Ultimate Fighter, where like people who are watching it for the first time were just like, wow, like fans for life. Right. Like, and so for us, that was the thing where it was like, we had a really good show and then the co-main event really delivered and the main event was good too. And, so it was just like right after that fight, every fight was just, slammed after that. Our next fight, our crowd just about doubled. So it was, that one. I mean, one of the crazy fights that I remember, of course, I'm going to forget one of the kids' names. Chris was one of it. I can't remember Chris's last name. It's going to bug me.
Not Grant Mason.
He fought a kid named Buster Crandall. And it was, I think they both only fought like a couple times each, right? So I think Chris fought 2 or 3 times ever. And these two just kicked the shit out of each other. And I want to say it was like their first pro fight or second, back then there were no amateurs. This is like their first or second time getting in the cage ever. And they just went to fucking war. And it was like, it looked fake. Like it looked like, when you were watching like a Rocky movie and they're just, like by the end, they're just like, it seemed like you could have You could have hit either one of them with a pillow and they would have fallen down. Like they left all of it there. It was like I wish we still had the footage of that because that's like it was one of the coolest fights I've ever seen. I was like, I can't believe it. They just stood there and threw punches for and now I feel that like I couldn't come up with the
Gotta
kid's
go back
name.
and
So I'm
look for
totally
it.
yeah, oh yeah, I'm gonna pull it up right now because
Checking the arc.
I can't not get the kid's name right after that.
Freddie, you coming on the 24th?
I'm gonna try. I have a show on the 24th. But you got what time? The last fight of your card usually goes off a little bit later, right?
Yeah, we'll be there all night. We start at 6:30. We go live on. We did a TV deal with a station called Swerve. So it's Swerve TV. So they do all fights all the time, and they're
nice.
what they call a fast network, right? So it stands for free advertised supported television. So it works basically like regular television does. Excuse me, except it's streaming.
Yeah.
So, and it's what they call linear. So if you turn on at 8 o'clock and you turn on at 8:15 and the fight start at 8, you miss 15 minutes of it. It's not on demand like it's more like TV. So we're working on it right now. We actually have to sit down and figure this out. Me and Rick have to figure out tomorrow, like what time do we go live and what time is it over? But I would imagine it'll start anywhere between 7:30 and 8, and then we may do 3 fights or so, and then we go right into 8:45. We'll take a 15-minute break, and then they do the show open. So Sean Wheelock and Rico DeShula will do the show open. So they stand outside the cage and they say, welcome to, the actual show open for the television portion of Fight Pass. So they'll do that live, and then we go 9 o'clock live on UFC Fight Pass. So, and then there's probably 2 hours of that, and then whatever is left, whatever hadn't happened at the beginning of the night, because you never know what's going to happen. And this is tough because, we want to give all the guys the opportunity to fight as early as possible, but it's just impossible to do, right? We don't know what's going to happen with TV. If you schedule X amount of fights and they all turn out to be knockouts, it's a balancing act, right? Try to keep.
Yeah.
Rick is more in charge of that than I am, but it's a little bit more complicated than everybody thinks it is. They're like, when do I fight? We're like, on the 24th. You definitely fight that night. You just don't know exactly what time, which is tough because people bring their families and they want to know where they are on the card. It's not that easy. It sounds easier than it is, and Rick has to deal with both ends of it because he's got not only does he have to figure it out, but he has to explain to everybody, your fight might get pushed till the end of the night. You fight, it just literally depends on how quick the fights go. If you have if it goes 3 5-minute rounds, it's 15 minutes of fights. You can only fit so many of them, right? So
it's definitely tough. And people like if their fight does get pushed, they're all pissed, right? Because they're like, I told my friends and family, again, you do comedy clubs, right? So like, if there are people that are saying, hey, my set's going to be at 7, but then some shit changes and then all of a sudden their set's at 11, like
oh shit.
Maybe some of their fans left already, or if they stayed because they want to support the guy, they're still pissed. And like, these guys are saying, hey, my people aren't going to, exactly. They're drunk, but it's also, they're like, my people aren't going to come back next time. Cause you told me I was going to be on at 7. I was on at 11. Like people had to get home for babysitters, and it was so. I mean, I get it. I get both sides, but like Joe's saying, we've essentially got, we've got 3 different groups of people that we have to worry about, right? Like we have the in-venue experience, which is extremely important, but then we also have the Fight Pass experience, which is extremely important, and then we also have wherever we're streaming the prelims. Like, so it's, we have to make sure that all 3 audiences are taken care of. And oh, by the way, we haven't even talked about the fighters yet, right? Like, so we have to make sure that we have a good show for all 3 audiences while also not being a total pain in the ass for the fighters.
Yeah.
And there's really no way to win, like we've tried to do it where, like last time we had scheduled post slams, right? So we went earlier on Fight Pass and we knew, a few days before the event, hey, your fight is going to be, Fight Pass is going to be 8 to 10. Your fight's going to be after 10 o'clock. You're going to be sometime between 10 and 11:30. And I mean, if there were 5 fights after that, I had 7 out of the 10 guys who were fighting later message me complaining, and all pleading their case. Like I was getting like huge text messages explaining why that person should get bumped up and someone else should get bumped back, right? And they'd be picking a fight that was streaming somewhere else and saying, my fight's better than that fight. Why is it that I'm getting pushed later? And it's like there's 1,000 different reasons. Like, it's like, I can't.
Fred, that not only does he have to do that, but he has to juggle the fights, right? So if a team's got 2 fighters or 3 fighters, they obviously can't corner the same guy over and over. You corner wants to go in the back with you. They want to warm you up. They want to make sure you're all right after the fight. So you really have to space out. You can't put 3 guys from the same team right in a row. So Rick's got to deal with all that too, and they we want 2 fights in between our fights. It's like, how do you juggle all that? And then it's an interesting business. It's crazy. There's so many.
And you never know what guys are going to want to, right? Because sometimes I have guys complain that they're not late enough, right? They're like, why do you have me so early? Why am I a prelim? This is bullshit. I'm one of the best guys on the card. I should be, maybe not the main event, but I mean, I should at least be like a couple fights before that, right? And then we have other people who are like, why do you got me fighting so late? Like, can I go first? So it's that's the tough part. But I mean, we're trying to do it with like the least amount of disruption possible, right? And I think this one will be good because with Fight Pass starting at 9, the goal will be to have Fight Pass be the last fights.
Yeah.
And if they're not, and we have to push something, like if something crazy happens and somebody gets hit in the balls and it's like there's multiple timeouts and like if stuff like that happens and we have to push fights after, like that sucks. But
it's I mean, you can't of all the things you can't control, what you guys do, there's like I can't even imagine the unpredictability that could go into any situation.
Yeah, and it's the other side of it too is if they go too fast.
Yeah.
Like, so for the first 2 hours or so of the event, I'm just like, I'm not enjoying myself. Like there's no fun in it for those first couple hours because the whole time I'm just looking at my watch and I'm like, all right, I have to speed things up. I have to slow things down. So if you're in the venue and you're wondering like, why did we skip post-fight interviews? It's because we're running behind. It's got nothing to do with we don't want to give this kid an interview. We thought his fight sucked. It's nothing like that. It's like, okay, we're running behind. No interview.
Yeah.
And then the running joke is when it's going too fast, we start interviewing the losers. Right.
Right. Exactly.
How'd you feel about losing? It was funny because remember when Calvin King just fought Aljamain Sterling, Dana was so pissed off they didn't interview Aljo. He won. Yeah. They didn't even interview him. For UFC 300, I mean, he was pissed. So
so it's not like that. When we don't interview guys, it has nothing to do with being disappointed or anything. It's just it's a timing.
You got a schedule. You got to stick to it.
Yeah, for hours, I'm just worrying about the timing because it's like if we interview this guy and we if we like that extra, sometimes we had a fight. It was actually Aaron Trissell and Chris Almestica from I want to say our second or third show. They were they had warmed up. They were standing at the curtain and they were ready to walk. They like your fight is on right now. Like you will be up in. As soon as these guys comes out, you're walking. But, our timing was off by, we were about 2 minutes too late.
Yeah.
And so we had to tell them, we're sorry, but you got to go. Like, fortunately, it wasn't me that had to do it. Yeah. But they just had to say, it was Ryan Parker. And he was pretty bummed about it because he had told him it's definitely happening. It's definitely happening. And he came running out and he's like, we've got the time. We can do it. And I'm like, no, we can't, man. Like, it's because all it takes is like, we can't be late on Fight Pass.
Yeah.
Like, we can't do it. That's like their number one rule is they say, you have to start on like if we say you're starting it, if you tell us you're starting at 9, the clock ticks 9, the stream better kick on.
Yeah.
Like it can't be 9:04. It can't, so and all it takes is like if someone gets hit in the balls, if someone, if there's a couple fouls, like so I mean, we really have to have that last fight walking, on the the fight prior to Fight Pass, we have to have those guys walk into the cage by like 8:35.
Yeah.
If it's 8:38, sorry.
Can't make it happen.
Yeah. But I think what we're gonna do on this one, and again, this is my hope. We'll see what happens as we where we're at as we get a little closer to the fight, because I don't know. I mean, we might lose 2-3 fights. I might add a fight. Like you never know what's gonna happen in the next 10 days, right? But the goal would be, because the beautiful thing about Swerve is we don't have to really tell them what we're doing. And what I mean by that is like we don't owe them specific fights. So it's so for example, Kyle Hill. I'm just going to use Kyle for example. Like if we were to, based on what we have for a fight card today, Kyle Hill's probably not on Fight Pass. And that's not a knock on Kyle Hill. It's just, we owe Fight Pass 6 fights. We've got 3 title fights. So right off the bat, 3 fights are spoken for on Fight Pass. Right? And then Jake Pill is fighting. He fought he's been one of our most popular stars.
Yeah.
Him and Jan, they've been the 2, right? I mean, Garib also, but Garib only fought for us once, but like our, some of our biggest stars have been, like Pill is up there. He's for sure top 4, however you want to look at it. One of the bigger prospects. He won 3 fights in a row, all in about 30 seconds apiece. In his last fight, he fought for the belt. He got knocked out in that fight to the kid who's actually headlining this show. Jake's fighting again. This is his comeback fight after the title fight. So, Jake's 4-1, still looks like a guy that could get to the UFC. He's obviously on Fight Pass. Okay, so now we're at 4, right? And then you start looking up and down the rest of the card. We've got another fight. The kid who went last, did you stay all night last time? Did you stay till the very end of the night last time?
I forget exactly what time I stayed till, but I know I watched the last 2 fights on Fight Pass.
Okay. Well, so the kid who went very, like, last, like we had Fight Pass, then we had some dark fights, and, it was Travis Demko, and he fought for us before. Good kid. I like Travis a lot. He's 4-1. He had a big knockout win. He won in like, I don't know, 20, 25 seconds. And when the building starts to empty out, like if we have Fight Pass end at 10 or 10:30, and then we have more fights after that, a lot of people start to flow out. So I mean, there might have been 400 people left in the venue, right? If we started with 2,500 people, there was like 400 left when Travis is walking to the cage. So he kind of took one for the team last time, and on top of that, he's got a really good fight. So we've got a 4-1 guy fighting a 4-2 guy.
Yeah.
Okay. That's Fight Pass fight number 5, right? Like non-negotiable. Those 5 fights are on Fight Pass. So we got one more. So as we start looking at the rest of the card, I got to figure out, okay, what's my next best fight? Yeah. And where I was going with it from a timing perspective, right, is let's just say as of right now, Kyle Hill's, he just misses the cut by 1 fight, right? If he's going to be our last fight on Swerve, all of a sudden, if we call his fight if we call that a swing bout, instead of having it swing all the way to the end of the main event, we could change things up, and the variable could be, instead of 6 fights on Fight Pass, we'll do 7.
Yeah.
And then as long as we have the production package done, and we have the interviews and everything's all locked in, we could certainly push that to be the first, and we had to do that on another fight. A few shows ago we were able to do that, and it was actually Jerry Muse who was potentially going to be a prelim, who then got pushed to be the first fight on Fight Pass, and that worked out well. So I think
Jerry's 6-0 and he's fighting for a title.
Yeah. Yep.
So
he's fighting for belt on this one.
Big deal. And he was, we talk about those crazy entrances, right, Freddie? Did you see when he came out? Did you see the walkout that he did?
Is he the Captain America guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was completely against it, right? They said that he was going to do it, and I'm like, it's just not my thing, right? It's not what I want to have happen. And I have a niece that's got special needs. She's the best, right? We love her to death. She's my director of PR. Jerry knew enough to get her involved, right? So she was dying to be part of it because she was going to walk in dancing with him. And he said, "Oh, I'll just, I told him he couldn't do it. He goes, I'll just let him know that we can't do it." I was like, "Okay, you got me." So, what am I going to say, right? So, we talked to the production guys, and I said, "What do you think about this? Is UFC going to get pissed?" And they said, "No, it actually might go over well." And they said, "But the most we can do is 90 seconds, right? The whole thing's going to be over in 90 seconds." And I'm very glad that we kind of clarified that with them, because I think Jerry would have taken 10 minutes if he had the chance, right?
Yeah.
And so the UFC, not UFC Fight Pass, but the UFC actually voted what was the top 5 entrances of the year in MMA. Right, something like that. They didn't win the whole thing, but they were right up at the top and got nominated for it. So it actually worked out good. It shows you what I know, right?
I think I saw that on social media. I don't know if I saw that in person. I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
I definitely saw it somewhere because I remembered it when you said it.
Yeah, he went viral.
I feel like sometimes we probably need to talk to people other than us and get opinions on things, because Joe and I are both very I don't want to use the term old school, because that's I don't know, I think that's a stupid term, but we're both boring, we don't conventional, I guess we'll go with that. We don't like to have any fun, right? I'll go, I'll look at other events and I'll see that, they've got a goofy ring announcer, and I'm just like, ugh, it's I fucking hate that, or there'll be some dude with a t-shirt cannon, and I'm like, get out of the fucking cage. Just next fight, let's go. And so I look at everything from my perspective of if I'm a fight fan at a show, what do I want to see? I want to see high level fights. I want to see high level fights between, fights that matter. That's what I'm into. But so many people are, I was at the BKFC event this weekend, and they had a dude who was running around crazy, full on hype man, pumping up the crowd. He's running out into the crowd. He's throwing t-shirts, and I'm rolling my eyes, because it's I just don't get into that. I just hate it. But the crowd was going fucking ballistic. I got a call from Kevin today, from Kevin McDonald, and he's like, "I know we were joking about it, but I really think you guys need to get somebody to do that. You got to get somebody in a crazy suit to do some crazy shit." There was a, I don't even know what you call it. It would look like a Halloween costume.
One of those green men? Like a green man suit?
It wasn't that, but this looked like it was, looked like almost like foam, I guess. I'm trying to, big fake muscles. It almost looked like the Hulk, but it was Conor McGregor, and his head was this big, and there's a Conor McGregor Halloween costume guy walking around, and everybody's taking pictures with him, and I'm like,
all right.
Yeah.
So
he just bought into it.
Yeah. So if we had if we could get a costume made that's Dana White, if we got
I feel I don't know, where was the BKFC? Because I feel the Shriner is not as set up to somebody to run around.
Well, you might not be. Well, I mean, but this dude was literally running up into the bleachers.
Oh, really?
Way, But even still, the Conor McGregor guy, if we had a giant Halloween costume with a head this big that was Dana White just walking around in the crowd, everybody would be taking pictures with him. Seriously, we'd throw t-shirts over his shoulder and have the guy in a costume selling t-shirts, and we'd sell everything we want to sell. It's just I don't know, I think that's something that, like
I
we were
think
talking
you're
about
honest
with the
though.
entrance. Like, well,
I
we
think
both thought the dancing,
it's
both
cool.
of us were like, no, we don't want to see the dancing. And
Yeah.
everybody
It
loved
went
it
over great.
universally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And then and Ava was thrilled with it, which is all that matters, right? I'm happy when I'm happy when she's happy. So
yeah, I mean, we
The
really got to
social
find some
media
people that,
alone must be crazy.
yeah,
Like that'll like is people take pictures with it, then they post it on theirs, and then like somebody else sees it, it just branches off. Yeah, you
yeah.
definitely now that you say that should get some kind
yeah,
of whatever gimmicky, whatever you want to call it, something
yeah. We
that
need we need a mascot. You know
yeah
what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I don't know what the hell it'll be, but like if we like,
Yeah, they do that kind of stuff at the Celtics games and all that with the T-shirts and everybody jumping around,
yeah.
backflips and all that. Yeah, there's a place for it. I never thought there was until you see it, and then you're like, our crowd is pretty hyped up to start with, but
Yeah.
you can always use it. Right? It's just the energy feels better. That venue is really conducive to everybody right on
oh
top of it.
my God. I was gonna buy a t-shirt cannon on Amazon while we're sitting here. I was like, fuck it, let's do it.
Look at potato gun.
T-shirt cannons are $800.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe we go with a slingshot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude,
Yeah.
got ones. Those are pretty reliable too.
Yeah, I'm finding we could do a water balloon slingshot launcher where you need two people, one person on each side and someone could be in the middle. So
Yeah.
that's only $16. So we could probably do the t-shirt launcher out of we could use a slingshot instead of spending $800 on the cannon. Jesus Christ, I can't believe that's
That's somebody that used to play baseball. They can get it up there.
Get a football player. Maybe we'll get Tom Brady.
Yeah.
yeah, perfect. Let's see if he's available. I'm sure he's got
You're
nothing
gonna buy
going
in.
on.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
So, Rick, how
So
many
yeah,
fights do you have right now?
I think we got 15.
Yeah. So, Fred, I was
15 or
telling you,
actually 16, I think is the number because I added one today.
What was this?
I don't even know.
Um,
I don't even know who's fighting until I see the guy that does the posters, Lars, sends them across my desk. So I'll see an email and I'll open it up and I'll be like, oh, that's a pretty good fight. Me and Rick don't even talk about it. We talk about the main ones, but we really don't, that's his gig. He does it better than anybody. And I don't know, he doesn't need me bothering him about every one of them. I try to focus on all the other junk that has to be done,
When you're talking about the production earlier, how far out before the event do they need to start filming?
So we have a couple of things, right? We did a TV show with Nesson. Nesson's New England Sports Network, where the Red Sox and the Bruins play, obviously. So it's a lead-up show, right? It's what are the ones that Fight Pass does? UFC does, Rick?
yeah, it looks similar to Embedded, I would say. Like it's because there's some footage of them training. It's also some footage of them at their gym. It depends on we did one last time, and Hank went out to Planet Hank was the guy doing it. He went out with Jan, and they were doing donuts in Jan's car.
Yeah, I
They were
saw
checking
that. That was
out
cool. Yeah.
Jan's gym. So trying to do some things that are a little unique and not just like
So it's a lead up show. It's just like
Yeah.
why you should care, right? And I think the UFC does a better job than anybody at that, right? Telling the story about why you should care about these fighters. So this deal with Nesson kind of puts us in that position to be, there's 4.2 million houses in New England and where the Red Sox and the Bruins play, and now we get to introduce our brand to them and kind of talk to them about why it makes sense to come see the show live. And I think it translates. The UFC's done a really good job with it, and BKFC's done a really good job with theirs. They're telling stories too that are pretty cool. So I think that helps a lot. And then, so that's just a standalone television show that we do. It's not actually the fights. We'll show some highlights of the fights if we have them, but it's more of a standalone television show. The actual Fast TV deal with Swerve is showing the fights live, and we probably would have shown them on Nesson also, but it was against the Red Sox, so it was either putting us on there or the Red Sox, and I think they make a little bit more money with the Red Sox, so we let them do that.
Yeah. So as far as all the other stuff, though, the stuff that we have on Fight Night,
Yeah.
Like all the interviews, all that. I mean, our production crew slams through all that on weigh-in day.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
crazy.
really?
So yeah. So all those interviews that you see where the guys are talking about this is like that interview package that, 90 seconds before they walk out. Yeah, that's all stuff that the team has to shoot and edit
They edit it
on
all
weigh-in
night.
day, essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they literally stay up at night in the hotel rooms and edit on machines in their hotel rooms, and then get up the next day and come to the venue and do it. They kill themselves for 2 days straight. It's amazing the amount of
Yeah.
work they do.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that
we got
makes
to
sense.
really,
They probably don't want to risk wasting the resources interviewing for a fight that might not make weight
yeah,
or, get
that's the
canceled.
problem. We had a lot of footage from Sean Lally and from Jan,
From
and then
Jan, yeah.
Jan couldn't get cleared because of the eye poke from last time. He had a medical issue with his eye. He's going to get surgery. So, originally we were going to do the rematch of that, and then that didn't happen, and we wound up bringing in a guy named Sean Lally, who's a really tough kid. He was in the Contender Series, Rick.
Yeah. Yeah, he fought Chris Curtis, like Contender.
Yeah. Chris Curtis has gone on and been unbelievable in the UFC. I mean, he's really done some big things, and he's one of my favorite guys to watch. I love that style of fighting. But so that would have been a great fight, right? And they were going to do it. Believe it or not, they were going to do it at 185 pounds. They're both 170s, and like I said to him, I'm like, why would you kill yourself? If you're both the same size, like, why would you both kill yourselves to make 170? Who are you proving a point to? Like, if you're both walking around at 185, fight at 185. You know what I mean? Why? When you go to the UFC, you're gonna have to make 170. Why would you kill yourself? And they were both like, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. We do a lot of catch weight fights. Rick will give the guys the opportunity if they're within striking distance of each other weight wise. Like, why make them kill themselves? Unless it's a title fight, of course, you have to wait for a title fight, whatever the agreed amount is. But if you got two guys that are walking around at 150 and they go to 135, why don't you do it at 140, 142, or one? It just doesn't make sense to do any on the end of the way, right? That's my opinion, and I think Rick feels the same way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, and for me, like, on top of the fact that it's better for them and it's easier for them. Selfishly, we lose less fights. Like because when somebody pulls out of a fight or somebody has a bad weight cut, like, and we've lost several fights. We've had several. I mean, I can't say several, but we've had multiple guys end up in the hospital because of the weight cutting process. And in many cases, they don't do it. Like, a lot of the guys, it happens in the UFC occasionally, right? But a lot less guys in the UFC run into major weight cutting issues because they've got a team around them of smart people that knows the right way to do it. Whereas some of the guys fighting on the local level, they're just heavier than they should be, and they do a poor job of cutting down, and they end up in the hospital, right? So we don't want that to happen for the fighter's safety, but it helps us too, because instead of it's not good for anybody if someone ends up in the hospital, right? Like, it's bad for them personally, and we also lose the fight. His opponent loses the fight, so it sucks for everyone. So to just say, hey, let's remove some of the risk, because it's never, if a guy's supposed to fight at 135, it's not like they're on their way down and they're at 143 and then they get sick, right? It's always that last 5 pounds that kills you. So let's just skip that part. Let's keep you healthy. Let's keep the fight on the card. Your opponent won't have to lose a fight either. It makes a lot of sense. If both guys want to do it, we do it. And, I've seen some other.
If there's a big discrepancy in weight, if there's a guy that's quite a bit bigger, it only makes sense for the smaller guy to make him cut the weight. But if you're both the same size, where's the upside for anybody, right? And besides the safety, I think we get better fights. And I think the guys are more healthy and they don't gas out, and they, I think having that extra water in your brain, that's the problem with cutting weight. It cuts water from everywhere. And with the UFC now, with the drug testing, they won't let you get an IV. They used to be back in the day, you could just go to the doctor and get an IV. You could get a nurse to come in. I mean, at this point there, you can go to clinics. There's one at Linfield Market Street that you go in and get a bag of IV anytime you want. It's like $150. And so it's not that it's not accessible, right? But with the UFC, with the drug testing, they won't let you do that. Right, they think it dilutes the sample that you would take, and it's illegal to get an IV, which I think is crazy. I personally like the idea of different weight divisions, doing a 165-pound division, and adding some other ones. But I don't know. I've never thought it through long enough to see what the downfalls would be. But if you didn't have to. If you're not big enough to make, to fight at 170, maybe 65 is the way to do it. I don't know. What do you think, Rick? Have you ever thought about that?
I mean, at our level, I don't think it matters, right? It's not going to screw anything up at our level. I think at the UFC level, the only tough part is I think if you start a 165-pound division, it's not all going to be 155-pound guys that go up. Colby Covington can make 165. Right. So now all of a sudden, a guy like Colby Covington is dropping down a weight class. And there'll be some other guys that feel like they're small for 170 or maybe, middle of the road 170 pounders, like meaning weight wise, like they feel like, oh, I can drop an extra 5. That's not that bad. And, or you might get some guy who's really good at cutting weight. I mean, look at Alex Pereira, for Christ's sake. He was fighting at 185.
What a freak. What a freak. I love him. I think
he's fighting at 185, though, he's getting in the cage at like 215, 220. It's bananas. So if all of a sudden, if there's another professional weight cutter, right? For all we know, I'm trying to think of who at 170 is a big guy, but for years, Kamaru Usman, Usman's a wrestler. Yeah, but he's a wrestler. He could probably could have cut the extra 5 if he needed to. Yeah, so I would just say it's like guys are still going to cut weight and be dangerous. So I don't know that it's ever going to help that. Yeah. But it would be cool to have another division. I think it would be cool to have another one in the middle there, and if you have everybody separated by 10 pounds, they'd really be adding 2, right? Because they'd add a weight class in at 195 as well. Yeah. So having an extra couple champions would be cool. But I don't know. It seems like right now.
It's a lot more double champs, triple champs.
Well, that's what I was going to say. And I'm annoyed with that. Because you'll see so many guys, the second they win the belt. Yeah. They haven't even defended the thing once. And they're already talking about, well, I'm going to go up to this weight class and go win a second one. And it's just just fuck the guys in the division.
Yeah.
Right. So it's, even if you're not going to clear out the division, fight somebody else in it. There's, there's 4 or 5 guys that think they deserve a title shot. And you're not going to fight any of them. So, but I mean, I think it would be cool to have extra weight classes. I don't think it hurts. I think the divisions are deep enough at this point that, it wouldn't hurt to have that. And I think it also, I think it would be a tremendous benefit to, again, a guy like Colby Covington. Colby's a great fighter. Never won a world title, right? I mean, I think he might have been an interim, but he's never been. Yeah, he's never been an undisputed champion, right? Yeah. And because he had Usman in the weight class, he had an all-time great in his weight class, right? Yeah. Or a guy, years ago, Alexander Gustafsson, or there's always guys like that. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. There are guys that are excellent fighters that at the time were clearly the second best guy in the division, and they just couldn't get over this one guy. So. If there were other weight classes that they could go jump to, it would give more guys the opportunity to fight for titles. And I think that's a good thing in terms of, I mean, I don't want to get into fighter pay and all that, but guys make more money when they're champions, and I think it would be.
A lot more.
I think there'd be a lot of guys very happy,
Yeah.
and some of the guys that, that because I mean that's always been my thing. Like again, I don't want to go off on a whole fighter pay tangent.
Yeah.
When people want to fix fighter pay, I think I would like to see the guys right below champions make a little bit more money.
Yeah.
Like it's not the entry level UFC guys, right? Because like if you're on your first contract in the UFC, like that's a fucking tryout. Like you were invited, to use a football analogy, right? Like you were invited to training camp. Depending on how this goes, we'll see if you're going to make the roster, right? And if you're there for a few fights and then they cut you, then you were cut at the end of training camp. But like, I think what they pay for those guys is I think appropriate. But when you get to again Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, right? Like that's a guy that like he should be like he should be making a shitload of money, and he does get paid very well for what he does, right? It's not like he could go like be a dentist and make more money, right? He's still getting paid really well. But when we see I'm trying to think of who's the kid, Dominic Reyes, who fought John Jones, right? Like he very close fight. Some people thought Reyes won, or the other kid that actually fought John to a split decision. Those guys probably made a couple $100,000 for the fight when John made $5 million.
Yeah.
It feels like the guy in second place should be able to make a little more money. That's my thought. And, so anyway, so I think the additional weight classes, I think would help. And again, it's not like these, of course, I said I wasn't going to go on a fighter pay tangent. I'm gonna, but it's not like the UFC is fucking these guys either. Cause like the second place guys not bringing in a lot of eyeballs. Like they're not as big of a star as the champ.
Yeah.
Part of the reason they're not as big of a star is because they don't have the belt.
They don't have it.
Right. So the reason why Stephen Wonderboy Thompson wasn't a massive star, like, and he was a star, but he wasn't a fucking star. He didn't have the belt. And so if there was a different weight class that he was in, or, again, some of these, like as soon as you have a huge win in a title fight, all of a sudden your stock's through the roof. So I think it would allow the UFC to build more guys into stars, like whether it's a Colby Covington.
Yeah, I asked Andrew about it, and we didn't have a conversation about it. I just asked him what he thought, and he didn't like it. We didn't get into why or any of that stuff, but he was clearly against it. So I don't know what his thought process was, but I don't see it happening anytime soon for them. Maybe for us, maybe we can do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to guess, it's just like, it's not what's in the unified rules, right? It's not broke, so don't fix it.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about it? Like because really, I think that's, again, it would just add more belts. I don't think it solves any problems other than it would allow the UFC to build a couple more stars because they've got belts on them. But then they just also just threw out they've made up a BMF title, and now that's,
That was so much fun.
It was.
That was the craziest thing I've ever seen. There was absolutely no reason for Max Holloway to engage with him with that little time left, and he just put it all in the line like he always does. That's what you got to love about both of those guys.
That was amazing.
I hated to see either one of them lose, but it was, you couldn't have scripted it any better. But
yeah, it was awesome. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
That kick to the was the first. I think it was the first round or second round. That was brutal.
Yeah, but that.
Yeah.
Like,
that spinning kick.
I don't think he's winning this fight.
Yeah. That was tremendous.
Yeah,
that whole card was amazing.
Awesome. Yeah.
Oh my God. I loved it. It was funny you guys mentioned Wonder Boy earlier. The very first, I've been to 2 UFCs. I went to the Stipe Ngannou fight at the Garden.
Oh, awesome.
And I went to Woodley Wonder Boy 2 in Vegas. The fight where Habib, I think from weight cutting issues, he couldn't fight Tony Ferguson. It was like the 4th time that there was.
Yeah.
But actually, I thought Wonder Boy, I felt like I don't think he won the second fight. I thought he lost that fight, but I definitely thought that he beat Darren Till in that fight in the UK. And I felt like that kind of took him down a notch, but I did think he won that fight a little bit. I'd have to rewatch.
He had such a unique style. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just such a
Yeah.
odd, an odd thing to be able to do. The way he fights, it's just, I don't know. Him and Machida's the same type. It's like it's not supposed to work, and then to be able to do it against such a high level guy, like it's one thing if you're doing it to me. You know what I mean? It's like no, but if you do it at the absolute highest level against the guy that really knows what he's doing, it's just incredible. But
did you guys see? I know he was supposed to fight Michel Pereira. How do you say his name? Michel Pereira, and that fight he missed weight. But did you see Pierre's fight? Was it this weekend? I think.
No, last weekend, right?
Was it last weekend?
I don't know how that wasn't ruled a foul.
I don't know.
Did you see that?
I didn't think he made enough contact with the head. It looked like maybe he got a little bit more shoulder, but it was close.
Yeah, I only saw it. I saw it on Instagram. I actually had something going on that night, so I didn't have a chance to watch it. But I saw it on Instagram, and I'm like, he just did a backflip and landed on his fucking head. Like that's like he's a grounded fighter, and he just kneed him in the face. Like just because it was a backflip doesn't make it. Not a strike. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it was cool to watch. I mean, I love
I was going nuts.
I love the crazy stuff. Yeah,
I was like, I think they're gonna take this win away from him, but it's so hard when you see things on slow motion. Like I don't know if you guys watched the Bruins game last night at all, but like when it's in slow motion, it's like, did Pierre really make contact? Like same thing with like the replays. Like, did Bennett really like cross-check him in the back that hard enough to cause a punch? It's just like everything looks so different on slow motion, replay versus in the moment.
You can actually see what happened. Yeah, it's a completely different thing. I'd love to get some of those Bruins to the fights. We used to have back in the day. We had the guys from the Celtics used to come, like Big Baby and Rondo and Perkins and all those guys used to come to all.
Yeah. Think you can get Big Baby again?
I don't know. Does anybody know who he is?
No, I mean, that was a joke. I think he got sentenced to like 4 years in prison, like 3 days ago.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
No, he did not.
Yeah.
What did he do?
For like attempting to defraud the NBA insurance or something like that.
Really?
I'm making a note of that because I feel like there's a joke about that somewhere. I can make.
Yeah. Hold on a minute.
Write that down, ladies and gentlemen.
Big Baby.
Yeah, let me look. Let me see what it actually was.
Yeah, we'd like to start getting those guys.
Okay, yeah, 40. Okay, I'm just 40 months. Yeah, so it's he was sentenced to 40 months over healthcare fraud. They don't fuck around with that.
You don't want to mess around.
The two things: the government and the insurance don't like to get fucked over. Even though they do it to everybody else, they don't like it when you do it
doing MRI scams. That's like from The Sopranos,
Yeah, the government gets really, really mad when you try to steal their money, and then he'll steal yours all day long, and then the insurance companies, they get all messed up about it, right?
Did you guys see the other dude? I think he was on the Cavs. He was betting against his line for 3-pointers.
Wow.
So I'm looking at this right here. So it sounded like Davis and others defrauded an insurance plan for NBA players and family members of more than $5 million in a scheme that lasted at least 4 years. But it said they made false claims for dental services and various medical care, but that they were never provided. So it said Davis submitted a total of $132,000 worth of claims. So again, he's going to jail for 4 years. Over a guy who played in the NBA, made millions. Over 132 grand is going to jail for 4 years. They're saying he got $27,200 worth of dental work at a Beverly Hills dental office on October 2nd, 2018. Authorities say he was actually in Las Vegas at the time and flew to Paris that same day using the geolocation data from his cell phone to prove it. So yeah, that's kind of a bummer. Yeah, so he won't be. So he won't be at the next event.
20 months, a long time, guys.
Uh,
40 months.
and it's
Yeah.
like you're gonna get this. People don't get away with that kind of stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Now, maybe more do, though you just don't hear about it, I guess. But I feel like if you're doing
Yeah.
anything that leaves any kind of electronic paper trail,
Um,
you're not getting away with it. It's not happening.
these kids can't get away with nothing, you know.
Oh
We-
my God.
Yeah.
When we were kids, my friend's father used to make shotgun shells himself. And we used to take, I don't know if you guys remember even what a Maxwell House can is, but a Maxwell House
Yeah.
coffee can, and we would
Yeah,
fill it up with AAA gunpowder, AA, AAA, whatever the hell it was. We would pack it as tight as we can, and they were building my neighborhood at the time, right? I grew up on a dirt road, and they were building all these houses around it, and we would blow up sheds, and if you ever got caught with that stuff today, you'd be on the front page of the Herald, and you'd be done.
Yeah.
They'd call you a terrorist the rest of your life. We tortured everybody. We blew up everything we could get our hands on, you know.
I grew up
Yeah.
in like just the tail end of it. I want to say AOL started getting kind of big, I think, when I was maybe in like 7th or 8th grade or something like that.
Yeah.
What became big?
AOL, like that was the first like
Oh yeah,
internet.
AOL, yeah.
You get, like, you remember you get those
Yeah,
like
you get a disc.
30
Yeah.
hours at the mail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just missed it, thank God. Like, so I mean, we didn't have like we were like in high school, we were like the internet, like we'd go to like the computer lab and and like I had internet at home, but it was like there wasn't much that could get you in trouble back then. Like there were no camera phones, right? Like, I mean, as an adult, I had a Nextel at one point.
Oh, I
Right.
had the
So,
Nextel.
like-
that was awesome. The walkie-talkie.
Yeah, exactly. But there were no camera phones when I was in college, right? Like these idiot kids now,
Thank
you know,
God.
they're always getting in trouble for shit that they are on the camera
Hey,
phone.
Rick,
But anyway, yeah, we got a fight
tell us
coming up
about-
though.
Tell us about the title fights. What do you got?
Yeah, so headlining the show, we've got John Duma, just won the belt by first round knockout in his last fight. 135 pounder, super good fighter, black belt in jiu-jitsu, but obviously can punch
Yeah.
as well. He's fighting a guy named Ashik Ajim, and Ashik fought on Dana White Contender Series. He's had some fights since Contender Series as well. Super tough fighter. He does a lot of the things that Duma does, except he's probably a better athlete and has a bit more power, I think. So it's super interesting fight, like typical John Duma fight, right? Like almost every fight the kid goes into, people look at it like, okay, he's probably an underdog in this fight. I don't know how he's going to win this fight. But Duma always seems to go out and win, right? So you can't break the guy, he looks to drag people into the later rounds and drown him. And I think that's what he's going to look to do here. He's probably, I'd say he's definitely a better jiu-jitsu guy as well. So he's got advantages in this fight, but if this is a boxing match, it's going to be a tough fight. It's going to be a tough fight for Duma because Ajim is a great athlete, huge power. Should be a lot of fun.
Where's he from?
We also from Ajim, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's from Long Island,
Okay.
I believe. Yeah, I know it's New York. I think it's Long Island. So yeah, he's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's very, very exciting. Neither guy's ever been in a boring fight, so it's one of the easiest matches I've ever made in terms of like there was never a thought in my head about I wonder if this fight's going to be any good.
Yeah.
Like, of course it is. Like both guys are always in awesome fights, so can't wait. We also have Carlos Lazoya. I don't know if you remember Carlos from the last fight. All tatted up. He won in first round submission over Chris Dissanel. Lazoya is also
Chris a tough kid.
Yeah, nobody runs Chris over. He fought for a belt on our show, and he ended up getting finished by leg kicks in the 5th round, right? And so the guy
against
the kid
Pampos, who became our 135 champion, went to the UFC.
Right. So Dissanel went 5 rounds with him, got finished by Lazoya in about a minute and a half, and Lazoya's a 125er. So I mean, Lazoya is a real good fighter. You know, he might be the best guy. Like he might be the next guy in New England to go to the UFC. You know, he's right there, and you know, very good jiu-jitsu guy. He's also you know, again, I'm gonna screw it up because I'm not in the army myself, so I don't know what the right terms are, but I believe he's still active duty military. If not, he had a very long military career. So, you know, I know he had you know, very decorated in the army. I've read about it and I heard someone else talking about it on the podcast, but I don't want to get into it because I'll fuck it up. But
The dude's just a badass of some kind.
Yeah,
right.
all around
Right.
badass.
Right. Exactly. And he's relentless in the cage too. He pushes a very, very fast pace. He tries to get guys out of there early, and he typically does. He's fighting a guy named Ferdavs Kasanov. And he's a very, very good striker. So this is kind of a classic striker versus grappler. I can't say for sure that it's going to be a great fight because I think we're going to see one guy overwhelm the other. I just have no idea which guy it's going to be, right? Because I can say with a fair amount of certainty, based on what I know about the guys, Kasanov isn't going to be able to grapple with Lazoya, right? So if they're on the ground, Lazoya is going to be considerably better. I think that Lazoya is also going to struggle to strike with Kasanov.
Yeah.
Right. So it's one of those fights where whichever guy can kind of keep it in their world is going to have a huge advantage. You know, so I mean, I don't think that's going to be a 5-round war in which they kick the shit out of each other for 5 rounds. One guy is going to find a way to get the other one out of there. And, you know, I would guess in the first half of the fight, but yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great fight. I have no idea who's going to win, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, I'd say that the other title fight, probably similar to that. You know, we've got Jerry Muse fighting Damian Nelson. And if you were at the last event, Damian Nelson was, it was the co-main event on Fight Pass. He won by knockout over Don Shainis. He looked outstanding.
Don Shainis is a tough guy. He's got a you know, very, very durable, very, very good wrestler, very well-rounded, one of the top guys in New England. And I personally think that he could have beat him at any time. I think if he had just let his hands go, he would have stopped him. I think he was concerned about getting taken down, and kind of that fight went longer than he had to go. I think he was just being very respectful because Don's such a good fighter.
Yeah, he was landing early and often in that fight. I mean, Damian's got some of the best boxing I've seen on our shows. Great. Period. You know, he's looked great, and you know, and he's fighting Jerry, it's not that Jerry has bad stand-up by any means, but Jerry's a jiu-jitsu guy, right? Jerry's going to want to take him down, and he's going to want to find a way to submit him. If Jerry can't get Damian to the ground, I don't think he's going to be able to box with Damian. So, you know, it's one of those fights where again,
I've never seen Jerry box, right? I've never seen him. You know, you haven't seen him do any stand-up because he's so dominant in grappling. You know, he's 6-0, right? Yeah. He's just, and he's got some slick submissions. What do they call that one that he hit Paul Teague with? Was it Paul Teague?
So he did an Imanari roll to a heel hook in about 20 seconds on our show. But he's also twistered. He's also twisted 2 guys. Wow. Yeah. So I mean, he's got some cool submissions, but the other thing with Jerry is he's had some other fights in which he's taken some damage early on. Like, I don't want to, like, I hate it when guys say, oh, he was losing the fight. Like, if you go out there and finish a guy in like the first minute of the second round, like, it's tough to, like, he wasn't losing for that fucking long. Right. Yeah. So I can't say that, oh, he was losing. Like, he was getting his ass beat. Right. But like, there were guys that he fought that he didn't go out and run them over. Right. Like, it was, the other guy was landing some punches. It was a very close fight. And then Jerry ended up kind of, you know, fighting through it and getting the submission. So, I mean, I would say, you know, he's another one. He's in the military as well. And it seems like he's just more mentally tough than everybody he fights. And no matter how much damage he takes, he keeps coming. So I think that's something that, you know, and the other thing about Jerry is, as goofy of a guy as he is, right? And like, you know, he's 1000% playing a character, except he's better at it than guys like Colby Covington, who are just obviously acting, right? So
Yeah.
when you meet Jerry, there are people who just think like, this guy's a little fucking goofy. Like, you know, he seems like he's a little crazy. I mean, after the fight, he said something to Damian about, because they were supposed to fight on the last show. He's like, oh, thank God I didn't fight you tonight. That would have been me getting knocked out in there. Right. And then, you know, a great fight, bud. High fives him. And then, you know, you know, he was talking to me at the cage and he's like, yeah, get me. He's like, yeah, I want that fight on the next one. He's like, yeah, I want to fight that kid for the belt on like same night was telling me I want to fight the kid for the belt. Like as the kid's standing in the cage, I want to fight him. Right. And so he's already starting to play like mental warfare. I said to Damian, I was like, yeah, what do you think? You wanted to get the Jerry fight on the next one? He's like, yeah, he's not going to want to fight me. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, he just came up to me out back, said, you know, I said that I would have knocked him out. And, you know, thank God he didn't take the fight. And I'm like, oh, he told me like 10 minutes before that he wants to fight.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. And I'm like, no, yeah, he's fucking with you. He's playing games with you. So, but on top of that, Jerry is like, he's super cerebral, right? Like he's going to like, I guarantee you there's something he's seen in Damian's fight where he's broken down the film a dozen times and in his mind, he knows this is the way that like, this is the takedown I'm going to hit to get this guy off his feet. He knows today what he's going to do. And he'll probably tell us at the weigh-in. He's going to tell us at the weigh-in, oh, when he throws his fucking counter, sometimes he lifts up his, like there'll be some silly nuance that he picked up on. And it's going to be, oh, sometimes after this combination, he takes half a step that way. So I'm going to bait him into throwing that combination and I'm going to dive at his ankle knowing it's going to be there, even though at the start of the combination, it's like he's going to have something that he picked up. And, you know, and as of today, he knows it's going to work. We'll see if it does.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's one of the few guys that I've talked to in the fight game that will get super deep into the analysis and will pick up on like just a couple weird little things. And he'll say, the way that this guy does this one thing is going to leave him open for something that I do well.
McGregor does it. McGregor,
yeah, exactly.
A real weird way of predicting what's going to happen and saying he's been amazing with saying some of that stuff. And you're like, wow, that guy really thinks. He's a guy that I didn't think that much of when he started, and then he fought Dustin Poirier, and Poirier was just coming up. And when he beat Poirier, I was like, okay, this kid can fight. Maybe I was wrong, right. You know. Obviously, I was, but, you know. But at the time, I was like, maybe I was wrong if he beat Poirier.
Oh yeah, it took me even longer.
Yeah.
I wasn't bought in until the Eddie Alvarez fight.
Yeah. And then he just kept, dominating guys. But this fight is really interesting. I like this kid Nelson a lot. I just like the way he fights. I like that style. He's just rugged, durable, beautiful punch combinations, and it's a huge test for Jerry. But it's going to be awesome. I can't wait. And I like them both of them. I think they're both good guys. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, they're both cool guys. I'm excited about that one. And just to kind of keep running through some fights, Jake Pilla's fight's going to be awesome. He's fighting Adrian Haley, who fought in our last show. Adrian picked up a knockout in round 3 on the last Combat FC. It was actually the first fight on Fight Pass last time. Beat a real tough guy in Josh Medeiros. So that's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, that was a good fight. That was another good fight. I didn't realize that's who we fought. That was another great fight.
Yeah, it was a great fight. Medeiros did some damage early, and
he's got a huge following. People love that kid, and he's tough. You can see why they love him, right? He's an exciting fighter. I didn't realize that was the fight that he won.
Yeah. What's that? Is that fight was that a bantamweight fight?
So they fought. So Haley fought last time at 130. He's fighting Pilla at 135 this time. Okay. So Adrian, like on rare occasions, will make 125, but he's a big guy for 25, and he doesn't like to cut down there. So he'll often fight at 30 or 35, and Pilla his title fight was at 35. So they're fighting at 35 on this one, and it should be fun. I mean, Haley's a guy that if you look up and down his record, he's only fought killers, and he's not a guy that gets finished easily. Right. So he's not someone that I mean, again, I've been wrong many times. right? But he's not someone that Jake should be able to get out of there in the first 30 seconds. You know, he's someone that, it's unlikely that Jake just blitzes him and runs him over like he's done to so many guys on our show, just because Adrian is so durable. But then we'll see what happens if he pushes it into those later rounds. I'm sure that's his game plan, right?
Yeah, that's the thing with Jake. I mean, he wanted to get right back on the horse. He said, I want a tough fight. I don't want to take any bums. I want to go and test myself. And he was doing well in that fight that he lost. The first round was back and forth. So he's exciting. I can't wait to see what he does. He's been fun to work with and a real good guy. And real nice family. They're good people. So I'm excited to see what he does. I think, when he lost, it was amazing. I've been in the fight thing, for a long, long time. I've been, involved in MMA for 25, 30 years. And then I was involved in boxing before that. And, people are, you have fans, but they don't really stick with you when stuff goes sideways. We have a little show office in the venue that we kind of do all the paperwork. And so I was in the show office and the fight was over and I could hear people outside. And I opened the door to look out there and there was about 125 people that waited for Jake to leave. He was the last guy, one of the last guys to leave. And they actually waited in the lobby, all his fans. I've never seen anything like that. It was pretty amazing to see how many people cared about him and actually stayed, you know what I mean, and waited around for a half hour, 40 minutes to actually get a chance just to, say, hey, we're with you, we support you. And that's, a testament to what type of guy he is. People really like him. And it's amazing to have fans that are like that. A lot of people, you have fair weather fans and they don't stick with you. So I'm excited to see him come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Trying to think, I'm looking up and down the card. Obviously, we talked about Kyle Hill briefly earlier.
Who's Kyle fighting?
He's fighting a guy named George Shepard, and George is 15-15, right? So he's a guy with 30 fights.
Wow.
But George has also fought, if you look up and down his record, he's fought like 7 or 8 UFC vets. Yeah. Right. So Kyle's taken a huge step up in competition. And it's one of those
guys. You know what I mean? You beat 15 guys. You got to be able to fight. You know what I mean?
Right. And you're also.
That's a lot. He's not what it feels like to be in there for sure. Kyle what is he 3-0 now or 2-0?
Kyle's 2-0.
2-0. So I mean,
that's the thing. He's had 2 pro fights. 27 fights.
He was supposed to take another one a month ago, and his opponent backed out somehow. I don't know what happened, but
his opponent got his face broken or something. Like he broke his orbital.
He was staying busy. He wanted to stay busy. He wanted to do both. He wanted to fight for us and fight for another organization in between. So he's a guy that wants to be out there and wants to be moving forwards. But 15-15, that's a veteran. You know what I mean? You beat 15 guys. That's a lot of wins. A lot of wins. And I'm sure.
He's fought a whole bunch of UFC vets.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure they're not giving them easy guys.
Right, exactly.
You don't want to be on the other side of 500. You're 15-15. Like you're probably motivated to just go 16-15.
Yeah. But Kyle Hill, I tell you what, man, you watch him. He does. It's amazing to see him do whatever he wants. Like he fights wherever he feels comfortable doing it as he's doing it. He's extremely well-rounded, extremely tough, and people love him, man. I got a group of people that me and Rick joke about it, but there's a group of people that I go to the dog park every day and I bring my dog up there. We all hang out. So there's like 30 people from the dog park that come to the fights. And all those people are like, is that Kyle Hill kid coming back? I said, yeah. And they all love him, and it's pretty crazy. It's he's developed, but in two fights he's developed a foe, and he'll be a star. Yeah. And I think he's incredible. I just think he's a real good fighter. This should be a huge test for him.
But you guys also do a really good job. I mean, promoting him obviously, but promoting all your other fighters. You're constantly putting the clips up on Instagram anyway. And so I don't know if do you guys? I got a couple of weird like Facebook requests. I think from like
probably not
or something.
Yeah. There's
Yeah,
somebody out there. There's somebody out there doing it to all the organizations, right? So they're doing it to to all the other shows that are in everywhere, all around the country, and they're going out there and they're trying to sell them a pay-per-view scam. So you click on the thing, and then they get your credit card number, and they steal all your information. So
yeah,
if it's not at combatfc.tv, it's not us.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
I was like, this is sketchy. So I didn't follow, but on Instagram anyway, like I definitely saw a ton of the hill clips on there, just the pillar clips, all that stuff. So, you guys are a huge part of that too, making sure that they're promoted properly.
That's what our job is, right? At the end of the day, that's what we're supposed to do. It's like, then that's I'm hoping that that's what this NESN deal is going to do for us and for the fighters, right? So me and Rick really put a lot of time and effort into doing these deals and doing this fast TV deal with Swerve and trying to get everything to the next level. And then some of the partnerships that we're talking about, they haven't been announced yet, but we're working on in the background is things just to keep growing and growing and growing. We want to consistently get bigger and bigger and give these guys more of an opportunity to become stars and then go to the UFC. Like our goal is not to be a regional player, right? Our goal is to be in New England with the Red Sox out of baseball, right? We want to be to MMA. And I think we're halfway there. There's a lot of stuff that still needs to be done. And then the next thing is to go to a different market. I think we've talked about it before is, maybe go to Newark, New Jersey, right? Just outside of New York, because New York makes it very, very difficult to do business there. But we could go to Newark, which would be right on the other side of the city. It's basically it's like Boston and East Boston. I mean, it's so close, and start doing shows there and duplicate what we've done here, and then move down to Atlanta, and then move down to Miami, and then kind of move around. I think me and Rick have talked about it. The goal would be to do a show every month would be ideal, right? That would give us a little bit of work-life balance. Rick can still see his kids and I think that would keep us busy enough to be a real, East Coast player, right? To really solidify ourselves as the number one brand on the East Coast. And it's a matter of growing a little bit at a time, right? So the first show we did, I think I may have told you the last time we talked, when I'm reaching out to guys on Instagram and Facebook, right, that I don't know. They're all 22-year-old kids. And I'm reaching out to them and I'm saying, hey, my name's Joe Caballero. We're opening a new brand. We're going to call it Combat FC. And but I couldn't get anybody to answer me. I mean, they literally wouldn't even answer me. I'd see that they saw it and then they wouldn't even answer me. And then finally I said to Rick, what am I going to do? And he says, start telling people that, who we are, right? So I'd send people a note and I'd say, do me a favor, ask the oldest guy in your gym if they know who me or Rick are. And then we'd get a response from that and say, yeah, my coach said he knows you and you guys are good guys. And that's how so the first show that we had, we couldn't even get guys. I'm talking to Rick and I'm like, where are you at with this thing? And he's like, nobody wants to fight. Like everybody's got relationships already with other promotions and they don't want to burn their relationship with them. And it's going to be difficult. So we kind of really struggled that first card. And then we came out and had a really good show and it all went well. And we, I don't remember how many people we had, but we had 1,000 or so people there. And then the next show got bigger and then the next show got bigger. And now, we're getting guys that we really were looking for. We want the best guys in New England, right? We want to have all the top guys. And that's not to compete with other people. It's just because we want the best guys. It's not like me and Rick have the same philosophy on this. I don't need anybody else to do bad for us to do good, right? Rick has the same mentality. Like we don't, like when we go after a fighter, we're not going after another promoter's fighter. We're going after the best guy in the weight division. It's not. And I think, we just focus on trying to grow us, right? Constantly, what do we do better? What do we do better? And it does, when we do good, everybody does good. When they do good, we do good. It's like when the UFC comes to Boston, everybody's like, doesn't that screw around with, doesn't that cannibalize your business? I'm like, no, absolutely not. I mean, it introduces 20,000 fans to, live MMA. And that's good for all of us, Yeah. I'm psyched. You see what Calvin did? He just went up to that the Southern University, Southern New Hampshire University arena.
Yeah, the SNH arena. Yeah,
Calvin had a show up there. It looked unbelievable, right?
Oh, his
and then
fight promotion, you're saying?
Yeah.
He's got a fight promotion that's really good. It's actually one of the ones that I go to because it's close, and he always does good fights, right? And then the kid in Maine just did one. He just went to the Cross Arena, which is a big venue. It's really really cool. It looked awesome. I was looking at the pictures of it online. You know, those are big moves. You know, that just shows you how much the sport has grown, right?
Yeah.
You know, we were back in the day. You know, Combat Zone was doing shows at the Club Lido in Revere, right? And you know, you had to walk through metal detectors to get in. I mean, it was a 600 seat bar room, right? I mean, it wasn't even seats.
Yeah.
It was just, it held 600 people.
They
It
were
was a
standing
bar
up.
room, right? Yeah, it was as bad as it got, and they were struggling to sell that out, right? And but to see these other guys, you know, especially like I was just really impressed with what Calvin did and the way they set it up and the way the venue looked. It looked like the UFC. I mean, they did a really really good job. And I didn't make it to that fight. He's got another one coming up. I'd like to try to sneak out to. But you know, he's so close to us that it's easy to go to his shows, and they're always fun. So, and we deal with a lot of the same fighters and a lot of the same camps and stuff. So it's good. But you know, it shows you how much the sport has grown since the beginning. You know, and I'm psyched to see it. You know, we're in a really really good spot right now, and it just continues to grow. And these partnership type deals, you know, NESN, you know, the Swerve Fast TV, those are the things that are going to take us to the next level. And
how often are you guys going to be on NESN?
So we'll do it every show. You know, we'll do something with them every show. One of the things we're talking about doing is some live content with them. You know, again, we were up against the Red Sox, so that wasn't going to happen. But you know, they've expressed an interest in that, and it's just a matter of, you know, working out a deal that makes sense for everybody. But you know, it's such a big thing to where the Bruins and the Red Sox play. I mean, it doesn't get any bigger. You know,
is it NESN? I don't know if I'm thinking of a different Boston channel, but I think it's like Combat TV or something like that, where they do, like, I'll see like kickboxing fights.
Yeah, so
no.
Comcast Sportnet does it, right? So that's NBC Sports now.
Okay, maybe that's
well, so Comcast Sportsnet is, I think Comcast Sports is still a station. So yeah, they do some fighting, but no, this would be like the station that if you're watching, you know, if the Red Sox are on today, it'd be on NESN. Like every Red Sox game will be on NESN. You know, like they have a whole bunch of other stuff too, but you know, the Bruins games, the Red Sox, and so I think it's cool because they don't show a lot of fighting on NESN, right? So we're, you know, it's not like we're just being mixed in with like some of the bullshit MMA shows that are, you know, you'll see on sometimes late at night on Boston TV. It's either like a poker tournament, you know, at midnight. It's either a poker tournament or it's like kickboxing.
That's what I watch when I go to sleep. Is like I want to hear the poker chips like clinking.
It's difficult to get traction on those for those shows, right? And I was talking to the guy at NESN about this when we talked about it. You know, I was like, you got to understand that we're not only are we producing a show that's really high quality, it's so high quality that the UFC actually buys it, right? They license it from us, they pay us for the product. So it's the highest level, right? That's the highest level of fights. We have all the best fighters in New England, and it's New England based, right? It's so like I said, there's other products that you can buy that are from different parts of the country, right? And I say it'd be like going and getting a B or C level team out of the Midwest that had no relations to Boston, filming it like shit, and then bringing it back and putting it on air, and then wondering why it didn't do good. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, the things that we have over everybody is we have all the best fighters in New England. Like we're literally getting all the best guys now, and there's a story to be told about every one of them. And then the quality of the product that we're putting out, right? When we first did the deal with the UFC, you know, Rick and I just sat down and talked about it. Like, what do we do with the money? Like, now that we have some money to back us, like, what do we do? Do we spend it all, or do we try to keep some of it and just try to pay ourselves a little bit more and do that? And we decided as a team that it would be the best thing to do would be to come out with the best product that we possibly could. And that's what we've done. And it's, you know, some days I wake up and wish we had taken the money, and some days, you know, but when I go to sell this stuff, I have something to talk about, right? I have a real product. When we show it to these networks, they look at it and they instantly say, that's great. That looks just like the UFC. That's what we expect, you know, when we put stuff on our television station. So that's worked out really well. I think it's been a good decision. And, you know, again, it's just keep on growing. And the fights that Rick makes are incredible. We were talking about it. How'd you put that, Rick? It would be like having your own fantasy football. You still there?
Yeah, I don't remember the quote you're talking about, but yeah,
You
I think I
said
I think I know what
you
you're
said-
talking about. Where yeah, I don't remember the exact quote, but yeah, someone had asked me like, how do you figure out what fights you're gonna make? And I'm like, just like figure out what shit I want to watch, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'll give you a quick example, right? Like from our last show, we had Josh Medeiros looked awesome, right? He looked great, but then he ended up losing in the third round to Adrian Haley. We had a kid later on in the show, David Giuliano, who won by first round knockout over Dan Cormier. And I was like, that seems like a great fucking fight. I would enjoy watching that. So then I messaged both guys and I booked it. Right. So hopefully the crowd likes it too. But I've got the coolest job in the whole promotion because I get to just kind of figure out which fights I want to watch, and then I just make some calls and make it happen. So it's that part of it's pretty cool. Like sometimes you don't have to overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to get too weird about it. Like, you see two guys that you'd be interested in watching fight. I mean, when I made that Jan and Sean Lally fight, I said to Joe, I was like, Joe's got a better relationship with Sean than I do. He's known him longer than me, right? I've only recently, started talking to Sean. So I was like, see if Sean will fight Jan. That fight would be fucking awesome. I want to see it. Like, see if Sean will do it. Let's see if we can get that fight. And yeah, I mean, that's how a lot of the fights are made. I just kind of
Lally wanted that fight immediately. He's like, yeah, love it. That's huge. That puts me in a great position. Those are the fights that I need to take at this point in my career. And he's because what's Jan 6-0, 5-0?
Jesus, I think it's 6. Yeah, I think I believe it's at least 6. Yeah, so.
And Lally's a guy that's been on the Contender Series, that's been right on the doorstep for a long time, and he was psyched for that fight. And then we told Jan's like, yeah, he's one of the best guys in New England. I definitely want him. So that's one. But from Rick, I mean, it's like having a fantasy football league that he can just, he gets to do it in real life.
Yeah. And you get the secondary reinforcement of the crowd going nuts when your baby that you put together explodes, right?
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's very cool. That's definitely something that again, it sucks the other way too, though. Like when I put together a fight that I think is going to be super awesome and then it just blows, I hate that. But there are so many that, when I'm watching the fights and it turns out to be like a really good night of fights or one particular fight goes well. I mean, I tend to look at the whole event more than anything. And again, the timing and stuff we were talking about earlier, those are things that I stress out about. Like if the event runs too long, I'm annoyed about it, even if the fights were good. And so it's it is to answer your original question. It's super cool to see something that we worked on turn out to be a really good night of fights, and the crowd enjoys it. It went really well. I mean, Joe and I both, we get out of the fight super late, but then we both go home and start watching the Fight Pass broadcast.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I got to see how it looked on TV.
Yeah, I get home at 3:00 in the morning and stay up till 5:30 watching the fights, and then sleep till 10 and then get up and make sure everybody got paid and everybody's got the, it's like, it's crazy. It's just a crazy business.
Yeah.
But it's fun. And it beats working. You know what I mean, Fred? It's like, it beats going to a job you don't like,
Yeah, hell yeah. Guys, I can't think of a better way to wrap up this episode. That was amazing. I want my producer to give me kind of the wrap up signal, but I really appreciate you guys giving some time, giving your insight. I know you guys got a crazy week. I'm really pumped about the fights that you guys mentioned. I'll try to put up some of their clips too on social media and stuff like that. Just another great episode, guys. And I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank everybody out there watching, and I thank you for tuning into the Barn Burner Breakdown. Check out Combat FC on May 24th at the Shriners Auditorium in Wilmington, Mass. Do you guys have anything else that you want to promote?
Yeah, just tickets are at combatfc.tv. Combatfc.tv. You can get tickets. The event is the 24th. It starts at 6:30. Probably go to about 11:30. It's fun, safe. Really, really good time. And Fred, make sure you get in touch with us if you're going to come after the show. I'll just leave tickets.
Absolutely. Mike. I think my show ends. It probably ends closer to 10, just give or take. Sometimes, some stuff, as you know. But
stick your head in for the last hour.
Yeah,
we'd love to have you. We appreciate you having us on.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely, man. Well, thank you guys. And we'll catch you guys next episode. Thank you.